This is a CW Spiral, a podcast run by two Barchies and a Bughead. We're your hosts, Sabrina Reed,
Michael Patterson,
and Reed Gaudens,
bringing you history about the network, the latest news, and in-depth spoiler-filled discussions of some of our favorite shows on the CW. So what's funny about this episode is its title, because Michael said something in our group chat that had both me and Reed laughing, which is that CW has become the Internet Explorer of TV networks, and it's so accurate. So Michael, explain what you meant.
I mean, where's the lie? I stood by it then. I stand by it now. But it's maybe it's a little early to say it's renewal and cancellation period, but we're getting news from all of the networks. Fox is having its 911 discussions that it has every year. CBS, it's got its whole slate ready practically at this point in time. And the CW has no pilots in development that are physically manifested in development other than we're still working on that. And there's no renewals and cancellations outside of the early All-American renewal, which sounds like it came as a package deal with the wholesale of the network. So I know maybe you can say, Superman Lois just started, or Gotham Knights just started, but they're the only two on a slate that we've had shows running for ages. Most of them are final seasons. All the ones were cancelled early on. We have no idea what the CW slate's going to look like. And this is a network notorious for renewing stuff early. And I know it's a different leadership and whatever, but their early renewals were late last year. And we're already past that frame of time. It's May in a month from now, and we still don't know anything about what the slate's going to look like and whether they do physical in-person upfronts. There's going to be some kind of upfronts to announce what the schedule looks like, whatever, when the fall starts. And we have none of that. So that was a very roundabout way of saying the CW's gotten very slow these days. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, there are no updates.
No software upgrade.
It's just funny too, because it's not like they couldn't just give us news. I mean, there are plenty of shows that have finished, right? We are still waiting on news on Winchester's and Walker Independence. Walker Independence might be tied up with Walker finishing, and I don't remember when the Walker finale is even going to be. But Kung Fu also finished, so it's can you give us a little piece of news? Can you give us one update? I'd rather know. They know exactly. It's on the books. So just tell us, because I want to know what we know for the 2023-2024 television season, there's All American. That's it. All American Monday 8:00 slot. That's it.
Yeah, the CW just keeps hitting snooze on us, and I'm like, you gotta wake up the alarm at some point. You can't be running to. You can't be the college student that's running to the to the cafeteria in your pajamas. No. You need something.
And Homecoming just finished as well, and obviously we don't expect news about that immediately, but the list of shows that have ended their current runs and there's still no decision on them is getting bigger by the day, and some clarity would be nice. We've said this whole last year has been full of smoke and mirrors and you'll find that out when, and then keeping us holding on only to get the bad news anyway when we could have just had it right out of the gate. Give us some good news, give us the bad news that we're going to get as well. Just some clarity would be nice, because it's pretty weird not to know what the schedule, any part of the schedule is going to look like apart from All American Mondays.
I've seen this phrase going around social media where people are talking about significant others, and they say if he wanted to, he would, meaning that if your man wanted to step up, he would do it because he can. And we know that the networks can.
Mm-hmm.
They can renew whenever they want. We just saw Netflix do it with The Night Agent.
Woohoo.
Well, there's tons of other shows that they wait a few months on. They did it in not even 6 days. Was it 6 days? I don't know. But if they wanted to, they would. They can. That's a good thing to remember, is it's possible to renew a show literally at any point, at any time. Or cancel it too.
Us. Yeah, true, but treat us. I don't know, give us something. Let us know what we're doing. We're out here blind, just wondering about the schedules. I mean, the only news we got, and this isn't even from CW, it's HBO Max and Netflix news about when the CW shows are hitting the platforms in April. So like we do know Walker Independence is going to HBO Max on April 1st. April 6th is when The Winchesters lands, and April 7th is when Kung Fu comes to HBO Max. And then April 11th is when All American Homecoming comes to Netflix. So like there's going to be a smorgasbord of CW content available on streaming. Maybe tell us what's going to happen with these shows in April.
Yeah, all 4 of them are ones that we could do with decisions on, so it would be nice to hear more about them.
Oh my God, fingers crossed, manifesting. Be a proper, I don't know what, significant other.
Become Google Chrome.
Yes, evolve. But moving into what we're watching, speaking of like evolutions, I feel like Superman and Lois season 3 is already like, it's hard to say that Superman Lois is surpassing itself, but it kind of like really is. Episode 3 was fantastic and tension filled, and they like hit us in the gut within the first 3 minutes of what like the recap. Like what you missed was hurtful, and then we went right into Clark's nightmare.
Can I just say, this is the first episode that I've watched live on the night because I had screeners. And when I saw my previously on, I was like, I got it. Because wasn't it me that was complaining about it last season? Because I was like, there's so many hiatuses and they just throw us right in. I'm like, I need to be let into this. So I know you guys watched it both live. Did they have the previously ons for the premiere in episode 2?
Episode 2, maybe. I don't know about the premiere because they montaged.
Either way, I'm taking it as a win. I fought for what I needed and what I wanted, and it worked.
And there wasn't even any hiatus this time. You didn't need it, but you got it.
I don't know if they're gonna do this every episode. I hope they do, but I was like, oh, thank you.
They let us ride the hand right into that, and like, what an episode! I think when we cut out the reviews of every single one of Superman and Us, you'll find me in those first 5 seconds saying what an episode. But this show just does not stop, and I think that's one of the most packed episodes we've ever had. But like, just to pick up where we left off from last week, and then I did mention last week that they try not to reveal the same information more than once. So in order to catch the viewer up, they did that beautiful montage where Lois revealed her diagnosis to a different person, and each line of dialogue was to a different person. So you saw her telling Lana and Kyle and Sarah, you saw her telling her dad, you saw her telling Lucy on the phone, which was a nice little callback to last season as well. But like, considering we only got like a scene or a line of dialogue per each of those scenes, every one of them was so hard hitting, and like, yeah, it just set you up for an emotional roller coaster of an episode. And my goodness, Sam Lane's face, that kind of broke me in the opening moments. That was what a moment.
Although I was kind of frustrated with him later on in the episode when he kept blaming Clark. And I'm like, Clark can only do so much, Sam. But Clark was just taking it because that's so relatable. Like when your father-in-law is yelling at you, you're just like, I'm not going to fight back.
And they have like 2 different personalities too. Sam's like, force her to go to the chemo sessions. And Clark's like, I want to have a conversation first. Can we unpack the feelings?
And I loved the like opening with Clark's nightmare. I feel like was so impactful because like he's trying to save her, he's trying to get to her, and he can't find her, he can't get to her, he can't save her, and it was just like, packed a huge punch just right in your heart. Like, just put the arrow right in there.
Bitsie screaming, like the one with Lois screaming for Clark. Every time she did it, my heart hurt.
I know.
Like, please find her because she is just screaming for her life right now. She needs you.
Yeah, I have a bone to pick with the CW for putting that in all the trailers and making it feel like it was actually a real scene, and then we find out it was a nightmare sequence.
Oh yeah, when the thing was falling on her.
Yeah, and the Daily Planet logo, and all you saw was the scene of her reaching for him and him flying towards her. And we got that many, many times throughout that episode as Clark kept going through that in his head. And that first opening scene was so effective because they were in each other's eyesight for so long, but they just kept focusing on him, focusing on her, and it was like he was never going to reach her. And I think that was the whole point, in that this might not be a situation he could save her from. And I think in the first nightmare, he just did, just on time. But then when he had the second nightmare again, he never got to her in time. And I think that really highlighted his fear as how this journey goes on. He's probably going to feel more helpless. And that kind of came across in the episode because he offered to be there for her, but then he had to be Superman. And then he said he was going to like supervise her, but then he couldn't because he had to be Superman. And then Sam got down on him. So I just thought a lot of the family conflict was tied in really, really well to the story. But before we move on from the nightmare, cinematic quality special effects,
Mhm.
I tell you. Like, that's not the kind of stuff you'd see on the CW.
Mhm.
Superman movies have not had that good special effects. I love it when they treat us to moments like this, because that wasn't like, they could have had any kind of nightmare where Lois felt helpless. But my goodness, they went all out in that one just to really like drive it home. But yeah, I feel like just the whole Clark feeling helpless, and then that played in really well to Lois kind of avoiding her chemo treatments so she could follow the story with Chrissy. I mean, like we said last week, that you'd have to see how Lois tries to balance being a reporter with being a mom, with being a person suffering through an illness, trying to get better. And I think this episode really highlighted that, particularly because Lois was kind of avoiding it because she didn't want it to become real. And she teased that in her dialogue last week when she said she wasn't ready for everything to change. And yeah, it was a very effective use of like, for using like an episodic story to tie into the overall arc really, really well. And I thought it was a very Lois thing to do. And yeah, I can't fault that from a character standpoint. It was really, really nice seeing her avoid that so that she could do the right thing in the end.
It's interesting that you said episodic, because this episode does feel very effective as like a standalone a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the story it tells at the forefront about Lois is like just so rich and well done, and just a great singular hour of television. And I really loved the way that Bitsie played this whole story. There's so much like vulnerability and innocence, and so much that Lois wasn't communicating, but
Mm-hmm.
you could tell like Bitsie was had that in the back of her mind, as she's like, we're getting frustrated with Lois, right? Like, we're frustrated, like, girl,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you need to do, and you just keep pretending like you forgot, but we know you're avoiding it. And it's like a whole frustrating situation that I'm sure hits home for a lot of people. But the way that she played it, I can't even describe what she made me feel, because it was just subtle. And I don't know, can you guys put it into words? Because I like, the whole time I'm watching Bitsie, I'm like, how are you doing this?
I would describe this as like a tea kettle episode, right? Where you start, it's the water's boiling, and as we get further into the episode, it just starts screaming because it's ready. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like for Bitsie, the way she performed it, her snap moment is when after all of the drama, but like, it's like you really start seeing the climax of that when she is by herself in the waiting room. Is that the second or third time? And she has a whole moment where like the sound just is different, and what she's seeing is different, and you can tell the stress is getting to her, and she just escapes. We just leave because
Mm-hmm.
we can't do this. So by the time she gets to her explosion in the kitchen with Clark, who good on him for elevating the voice just a bit. I think
Mm-hmm.
anybody else would have been screaming, but he was like, I'm just gonna raise it up just a notch because you scared me. But she gets to still have the emotional weight of the scene, and I like that's because she's the one who does have to go through this. So even though we all of us, Clark, the viewing audience, is like, girl, don't chemo, right? Like, the scene wasn't about Clark getting expressed how hugely upset he was. He got to say it, but he didn't get to have the emotional arc of the moment she did. And I
Mm-hmm.
loved the speech that she got, in which she reminded him she's the one who's going to have to go through all the treatments. She's the one who might lose her hair. She's the one who's fighting this thing. He's observing her, and it's upsetting, and that's awful. But this is happening to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that this episode kept it on. This is Lois's fight. Like, everybody else can feel how they feel, but at the end of the day, she's got to be the one on, like, in front.
Mm. It was really nice that you did get to see all them differing perspectives on it, because you're right. The whole episode we were kind of watching it like we were Clark, like we were Sam, and just going, Lois, come on now. And
Yeah.
then when Bitsie had that moment, just like Clark did, you completely saw her side of the argument. But it was also equally effective in that, like, it made you understand where Clark was coming from, and where Sam was coming from, and everyone trying to get Lois to attend her treatment. And Chrissy, by the way, loved the scenes between Lois and Chrissy. And you completely understood where they were coming from. They weren't trying to take over, because a lot of shows could have went then down that, like, this is not your struggle, it's my struggle. And while we did get that in the Lois and Clark scene, there was a balance there in that, yeah, she understood why they were all forcing her to do it and stop avoiding it, but also Clark completely understood why she was dragging her feet in the whole thing. There was just an understanding that you don't see on TV so much, and it didn't have to be said or spelled out for you. It was just there in the way Tyler and Bitsie communicated that in that performance, because Clark did come through all stern, like as stern as Clark Kent can go. He didn't go like Superman level stern, but he was stern. It was like, we got to be better than this. Time is running out. You need to attend these treatments. But at the same time, Lois was like, you don't think I know that? It's just, I thought you saw every side of the argument in that little scene, because Clark was under pressure from everyone to look after and stop trusting her so much, and that you're leaving her to do it and then she doesn't do it. But at the same time, Lois is under pressure because she knows that her life's going to change the minute she signs up to this, and that she agrees to have her first treatment, and that she could feel sick and weak, and she doesn't want that either. So I just thought, we always said when Superman and Lois attempted a story like this, that we hoped we would see all sides of it, that we hoped that like authentic writing that the Superman and Lois does so well would benefit this story, and we're seeing that already in just this single episode.
That's why it's hard to like, I love how much they've managed to balance everything. For such a like jam-packed episode that was really tense on all angles, it did give you moments of levity and also moments of investigation. Like I love that like the counterweight to this was the teens on a mission together trying to get back Jonathan's truck, and they were kind of doing regular teen things, like we're at the diner and we're hanging with our friends, and then here comes John's girlfriend, and she doesn't know all the story about what happened last weekend, and all the friends, his brother and his Natalie and Sarah, like, so you didn't tell her the truth. Like it felt very teen drama in a way that's fun, as if, oh, how's this gonna blow up in his face? Because it has to blow up in his face, right?
Yeah.
Michael always says that this show, you reference Parenthood. Either way, Friday Night Lights is
Yeah,
something
that's the
that I
other
saw
one.
a lot in this episode, like especially when I saw the scene of Sarah and Kyle in the back of that truck. I was like, this is so Friday Night Lights coded. Like the lighting, the setup, the way the camera was like shaking a little bit. I was like, this, I've never seen a show that can do so many things well. Like it does the family, it does like the teen. It's also a superhero show. It's like so accessible. And I think this episode, we're gonna praise this episode up and down, but it does feel like this episode is like, it's settled into its identity so flawlessly. And it was never more apparent than this episode, because like you said, like the teens were doing their thing. We had intense, vulnerable, like storytelling with Lois and Clark. Like the balance is astounding to me sometimes. And we do need to talk more about the teens though, because Sarah, girl.
Wow, I feel like this episode, like Reed just said, it does balance everything so well. Like the nightmare sequence was out of a Superman movie. The Sarah and Kyle scene was like something out of Friday Night Lights. But I like the way all the storylines kind of like they impacted each other. Yeah, there's differing tones, absolutely. But like the stuff going on with Lana and John Henry Irons about how they're very much acting out of character now, but you can kind of by the end of the episode tie that back into after because of how they heard what Lois was going through, and it explains their behavior. And then you can see the tension continued to mount between Sarah and Lana, and even though Sarah was absolutely pushing Lana's buttons, it then got really, really far, and you were like, "Whoa, Lana, what did you do?" I feel like everything.
Both of them, I was like, what did you both just do?
Yeah, exactly.
And the funny thing is that when that scene started, there's something about the actress who plays Sarah that is just like so comforting to me. Like she's so like good in this role. Like the way that she performs feels very much like she's in like some 90s like teen show. Like she could be in Felicity and I would have believed it. Like there's something, I really enjoy her as a performer. You know, sometimes me and Sarah, you know, we beef a little bit, and that's fine. So when that scene started, I was like, oh, I love this. She's just like in the kitchen doing homework. It feels so real and grounded. And then the energy just kept stacking up in that scene to my gasp. Like what Sarah said, out of pocket. With Lana, how Lana reacted, out of pocket. I was like, everybody needs to go have a timeout and cool off.
Oh, and I felt it coming because of the way, like you said, traditionally things are set up, especially in the older teen dramas. I was like, she's at the kitchen and her mom's trying to talk to her. I was like, this is not going to end well.
The tea kettle.
Yes.
Starting to whistle.
It was because she, like, I feel like one of the things that we've always had a problem with Sarah is the inability to see where she's stepped wrong. She believes that she's so mature and she's coming from a point of view that she believes takes in all perspectives, but it doesn't. It takes only in her perspective. And in this one, and you could see it happening earlier in the episode when she was talking to Kyle, because she's like, I don't understand why I'm the one in trouble. I was like, girl, because every other teen in your group told their parent where they're going to be, or their parents are used to them hopping somewhere else and they'll be back home. That's not your and Lana's relationship. It's never been your and Lana's relationship. I don't know why we're confused as we're having lunch with dad. But like when she never wants to be taken to task. So like one of the things I think is going to be interesting about this season is she's also never had to be a child of divorce before. This is like her first few jaunts into it. And so she doesn't understand why her mom doesn't want her to tell her dad what they've been up to in the house. Like, because they're not married, girl. It's no longer his business what goes down in Lana's house. And I think also, not that Kyle would ever do anything to Lana, at least I don't think so. We'll see if he's possessed in any way at some point. But that she has to protect herself now because they're not together. So like, no, he can't know information about this house. No, he can't have the passcode. No, his place can't be on the security system. And no, he can't know what's going on in my dating life if it exists or it doesn't exist. And Sarah's like, you're being selfish. I don't understand. And and then at the moment I knew she was about to get hit, and I was like, Lana, please subvert what usually happens during this moment, was when she said, that's why dad cheated on you. And I was like, and here comes the slap.
the tension, it beautifully, like you said, the kettle whistle moment. But like, I have to just appreciate just how the tension boiled over throughout the episode for all of the characters, but specifically Lana, because like Sarah should not be sharing personal information with Kyle now, and I completely understand that. But when you go back and watch the scene, she didn't actually say anything other than John Henry Irons installed the security footage. And Lana's probably reading into that a little bit much, so she may perhaps overreacted. And it's the same way that Kyle was clearly fishing for information. Like, that man is not subtle in the slightest, but Lana would usually think about things before reacting, and she reacted all of a sudden. You could clearly see, I don't know whether it was what she learned about Lois, but they're definitely going somewhere with this. Lana had a very bad day. That woman is stressed out, and she did not need that argument in the kitchen at the end of the night. But like, especially now, the fact that at the end of the episode, she was talking to Sarah through that door, and I think we all clocked that woman was not behind that door. And,
she was confirmed not in the room, right?
Yeah, because she went to Kyle in the diner.
Yeah, I kind of appreciated that it wasn't like, it was just implied, but I was waiting for Lana to open the door. Because as soon as I saw her leaning on that door, I was like, well, she's not there, Lana. Yeah. She's not there.
That conversation's not going to go well with Kyle either. And it shouldn't. I kind
of love this direction though. Like, I want like a Sarah detour arc where she's not really dealing with what's his name? Jordan. But like, I love when these teen dramas always send like the usually like good girl archetype, and she goes down like a crooked little path, and maybe she hangs out with the wrong people, makes wrong choices, and like I can totally see her moving in with dad now. And dad's dad, he's not Lana. So maybe she can get away with more and steamroll him. But I'm excited to see where this goes with her, because I mean, I've been lobbying for Sarah to do something else.
And it is interesting because she spent a lot of time with Kyle in this back half of season 2, and that's when that kind of encouraged her singing dream. And then, of course, the alternate Kryptonians or the doppelgangers from the Bizarro Earth turned up, and it all went to hell. So it does make you wonder where it'll go, because it feels like they're kind of going back to some of the season 2 dynamics now. So that's why I'm intrigued to see where it's specifically going with Lana. Is this woman going to be running the town and then suddenly really, really lonely because she's no one in her life? Will that open the door for John Henry Irons? And then that's why I said them two kind of connected on a similar front, because they were very, very sharp as far as their like other halves went when they talked about them, because he was like, yeah, it's sad what's happening with Lois, but she's not my wife. And then I went on, I was like, that was a bit of a strange comment. But then you saw by the end of the episode that he was kind of covering up. He was protecting his heart because he is sad about what Lois is going through, and of course it'll bring back memories of his Lois and all that happened to her as well. So, and I thought the whole like arc of Natalie wanting to give Lois the wash but him not being happy with it, such a great storyline, and it was developed in such a unique way, because at the start you're like, wait, why are you being so mean? And then by the end of it, you get it. And I think it's kind of the same with Lana, because like it did kind of tip me out that she was like, oh no, we don't need Kyle installed in that security system, even though the man was literally in her house a few scenes beforehand when Lois was telling them. And you do understand why she didn't want it. But at the same time, you're probably going to see Kyle's side of things of why he was hurt, that he feels like he's cut out of the family now. It's going to be interesting. This show explores things like from a very like authentic family standpoint. And like, even though you can understand why he doesn't live there anymore, that's not his home anymore. But at the same time, should the security system have him if he needs to get in to see his daughter? So it just like with the Lois and Clark things, you do understand all sides of things. And it does feel like they've really turned up the tension now going forward. And considering this was such a contained episode, I can't wait to see how it's kind of blown the lid off a lot of the storylines.
Now, is the divorce final?
I think the ink is dry because Lana's acting like the ink is dry,
Yeah,
and the government knows they are not attached.
If it's not, I feel like it's gonna get ugly, and Kyle's gonna be like, "Here's some custody papers."
I could
Because
see
these
that.
children are still minors, and she just hit one of them. So maybe we're gonna go to divorce court in Superman and Lois season 3.
See, I don't know if for us, that action is going to be delicious. For them, though, it's going to be like, Kyle, if you bring that up, she's going to talk about your drinking habit and what it was like for the girls seeing you on the couch like that. Like,
it'll get ugly.
It'll get ugly real fast. I think that's the thing about watching shows like this as an adult rather than watching them as a teen. Because like I feel like we see more sides of the story now because we're adults. Because I feel like as a teenager, I've probably been annoyed with Sarah, but also being like, you know what? She's blank slate now because Lana did what she did. And I'm like, she's a little blank slate because Lana did what she did, but I need Sarah to recognize that you have a hand in the way that you talk to your mom, and it's not cool. But also I think because it adds a layer to what's great about Superman Lois is it really is written from the perspective of the adults. Like, there's a lot of different parts of the storyline. Like, yeah, it bleeds into how the kids feel, but it's also got a perspective of how you don't actually know your parents when you're a kid. So with Sarah, she's like, everything's black and white. And I'm like, there might be a reason why Lana's acting like this. You know your dad is your dad. You don't know your dad is Kyle. So like, yeah. It'll be interesting if Lana's like, there's things about our relationship that you have no idea about. And I'm going to need you to just trust me when I say, don't do these certain things or don't tell your dad these certain things. Because the way he rolled up on her at the office, I was like, this is giving fresh divorcee, but also leave the mayor's office. This is not your business.
It was. And I think that's the thing about Superman and Lois. I've had so many people in my mentions over the last 2 years or whatever, this is turning into CW teen drama. I'm like, no. Superman and Lois is not a teen drama. It's a family drama. It's not Gossip Girl. It's Parenthood. It's Friday Night Lights. So you get to see all sides of things. And just like those shows handled all of their characters better than the likes of teen dramas would handle the parents, Superman and Lois is definitely playing with all of its characters just in such an authentic manner. Superhero stuff will get priority as it goes on, but I'm glad we're getting to sit with the family stuff for now, because at the end of the day, 2 worlds almost merged at the end of last season. Let's see how these characters deal with it for a little while and then let them grow from there. But like, the 3 of us were talking about it as the episode was airing. That's one of the strongest, most consistent episodes just on a complete front. It might not have been as like heartbreaking as the episode beforehand or as memorable as some of the season 1 episodes, but just from an overall standpoint, that episode was a 10 for me because there was it nailed it on all fronts. I'm so excited about every single storyline. I'm so heartbroken over every single storyline. I love the show so much, and I think that episode was one of the best examples of everything coming together on the night.
And we still got the big villain development with what's his name with Clark's blood. Which didn't that happen in Smallville? Didn't someone steal Clark's blood?
I'm pretty sure it happened in Supergirl. They all love the Kryptonian blood.
Was it Lex Luthor's dad had the blood?
I think so.
Didn't at one point Clark's mom work for that guy? What's the man's name?
Lionel,
yeah.
Lionel. That's right. Yes. Yes, they all love the Kryptonian blood. I'm pretty sure every Superman story, Supergirl story, somebody steals the Kryptonian blood so they can make their own monsters. I think this might be what we're going to be doing this season. Spoiler alert. But yeah, like again, Bruno Mannheim's presence felt even though he's not in the episode. Again, I love this. slowly building towards this villain and whatever his end game goal is. We still are none the wiser, but you're starting to put the pieces together. I will say before we move on, it was nice to get to see what Intergang is all about, because in the comics they are like a weapons deal. They are weapons dealers and black market dealers. And when Lois and Chrissy got locked in that freezer, you saw all the like gadgets they had, like those big Kryptonian blasters that they used on Superman in the final scene. Also a nice full circle moment. I remember when the nightmare scene started, I was like, Lois would not be calling Clark when she needs his help, when she needs Superman help. And then in the final scene, she literally said Superman. I was like, that's my Lois.
I
That's
loved it. I loved it so much.
So good.
They were like, one last scream for the road, Bitsie, and then you can have the tea. You can have the honey and lemon you want. But that scene was amazing. I loved how we had a tensionful episode that was very character development centric, but still gave you action. So you have that moment with I'm scared for Clark. Like, we haven't even really gotten down dirty with Bruno yet, and we already had to be saved by John Henry because he was just because of the blasters. But maybe the kids will come in handy, because the kids were doing their thing and in this episode, and Jonathan got to participate. I love how Natalie was like, how long can you hold your breath? And he got to be a part. He got to be a part of the fight scene.
That was such a cleverly shot scene, just him running through and then stopping as someone's about to hit him. Natalie lifts them up, running through again. Jordan sweeps them to the side. That was such a clever scene. But I know that one of the points of Superman at Lois season 3 is that Jonathan's going to get more involved in the super end of it, because we never get to see that. And if it's more like that, that's just so much fun. It does make you wonder how far they can go. But like, Lois is at the heart of all the super storylines. We can put a human in there once in a while and it'll work out fine. So I can't wait to see more of Jonathan. And I just love the teens when they're working together. They might take Sarah out of it for a while now that she's got her own things going on. And that's okay, because
that feels right. It feels right.
That Sarah character could do with her own time.
She needs to think about what she did.
Definitely.
I do think it'd be good for her to be with her dad, though. Like, she and Mama shouldn't be in the house together right now. The hit was a lot, so we need to be away from Mom.
It's like it's like season 2 OC when Marissa moved in with her dad, and her dad did not know what to do with her. And Julie was like, "Where is she?" And he's like, "I don't know. She's fine, I guess."
Oh no, that's definitely gonna be Kyle.
Oh, completely.
Yes. Moving from an excellent episode worthy of being one of the top 3 episodes of Superman and Lois, to a solid episode of The Flash that still feels incongruous. But I guess it was okay. I love the Iris and Dreamer team up. That was the highlight of the episode. Everything else didn't need to be there. But...
I'm so conflicted over this episode. I say this about the interval episodes all the time. When they produce a good one, it's great. But at the same time, you're like, what was the point in that episode? I will say I adored seeing Dreamer back. I love when the Supergirl ended, and when Batwoman ended, how the Flash has basically become this like hub for the Arrowverse, and they're like, hey, bring that character back. So it was nice to see such a Supergirl. So Dreamer's become such an important character. She was created for Supergirl, and now she's a DC Comics character. And it's wonderful to see her one more time before the Arrowverse ends. And she worked so well with Iris. It was just so nice. They're such a good double act. That was that was my favorite part of the episode. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The whole arc there was wonderful. It was so nice to see them, and it was such a fun episode. I just can't get out of my head that this is the final season, and that I feel like this storyline just kind of went over stuff we knew already, and that we've been there and done that already. And at the end of it, you're kind of left thinking, okay, awesome, but what was the point? And I feel like that's what I'm coming away from this season saying a lot, if that makes sense.
I'm sad for you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We need that.
Like, I just counted on my fingers. I'm like, we have 6 episodes left, and they haven't really liked any of them.
No, because it's like, if I had known we were going into a short story collection for the final season, I feel like I could have prepared better. Like, usually final seasons ramp up the drama. Like, because we're coming to the end of the road, we usually, like, if there was a big overarching big bad that hadn't died yet, we'd bring that person back, and that's who we'd be fighting. And The Flash has no central storyline for its final season. I don't count Iris' pregnancy.
It sounds like a greatest hits tour.
But the
Yeah.
problem is it's using the same old
Serena's
format.
like, it's not even the greatest hit story.
I didn't want to say that, but thank you. The problem is it's using the same old boring format it's used for the last 3 seasons, which is 5-episode storyline, 5-episode interval, 5-episode storyline, and there's no time to build any kind of long form there, because if your final storyline is the same length as your interval, what makes the final storyline more important than the interval?
Now, what's an interval?
4 filler episodes in a row.
Okay, I like that answer.
It's 100% factual and accurate.
It's just so sad.
I'm excited for the final one, of the final interval episode, because Oliver Queen is back and John Diggle is back and Kid Flash is back. Cannot wait for that one, but it's going to be a journey getting there. This was the second interval episode, and it was miles ahead of last week's one, 2 weeks ago's one. I can't even remember when I watched that. Miles ahead of that one. The one we talked about, Sabrina, on the pod, that was just the two of us. It's widely regarded as perhaps the worst episode of The Flash ever. I wouldn't say that. It's just it's a perfectly decent, fun episode.
Repeat that. Who said what?
The last filler episode. Sorry, the last interval episode. The last one that we talked about 2 weeks ago is supposed to be one of the worst episodes The Flash has ever produced. It's not. It's just mediocre. It's fine, but it had no purpose to serve. It was just Allegra, Chester, and Cecile Sancho.
How can I say that? When we had the bachelorette and bachelor party where Barry went to the strip club and Iris was having awkward dinner with girls who aren't her friends. Wasn't
that the episode where Iris had a high pony?
Maybe.
Did she have a high pony this season?
Yeah, maybe. Wait.
Wait, this episode, yes, with the braids. Lovely. Yes. She's a cop in this one. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know. Iris's hair is what I've taken note of this season as a bystander. Like, every time I see a picture of her, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's been amazing the last 2 episodes. The problem is it's been the best thing about the last 2 episodes. But the Dreamer episode was better than the last one. It's just unfortunate when you're like, yes, 5 minutes of Barry and Iris, and that's the best part of the episode. Yes, Iris looks amazing, and that's the best part of the episode, because the rest of the episode is not making up for it. And okay, that's a bit harsh to say about this episode. This episode was very, very good. This episode was brilliant, and if this episode had taken place in any other season, it would have been one of my favorite episodes. The problem is it's still one of my favorite episodes of the final season, and it accomplished pretty much nothing. I don't want to just be like ranting on about that. Sabrina's like, go on, tell me about it. You're right, keep going.
Okay. I caught like a glimpse of it before Riverdale came on, and from what I saw, there was like no superheroing. Was there any superheroing in this episode? I mean, I saw like 3 seconds, so that's not a fair assessment. I saw like a family dinner, and then I saw Danielle Panabaker and a blonde man on a stoop having a chat. I don't know names.
Get to the stoop because I'm mad about the stoop. Yeah.
You found yourself with the worst storyline in the episode, and the only superheroing done in this episode was in the dream, because obviously Dreamer's powers is that she can channel the dream realm, and she can basically walk through her own dreams and walk through other people's dreams.
That sounds like so much fun.
But the problem is Supergirl never really explored it. Now it's come and gone, and it still feels like we're learning about what Dreamer can do. And I'm like, this woman has been a part of the show for like 3 years on Supergirl. They barely explored her powers, and now we have to use an episode of The Flash to finally get answers about how powerful she is. Exactly, about how powerful she is. I'm not sure they ever expected Dreamer to be such a revolutionary character, and they're just trying to use what little time they have now to finally show us. And don't get me wrong, I love it. This is probably the better than any Supergirl Dreamer episode. And also, I think The Flash is slightly bigger budget, because Dreamer's powers look far better on this than they ever did on Supergirl.
The whole budget, though. That's why we don't have any action sequences. They needed all the budget for those powers. They were beautiful, though. Gorgeous blue light.
It was. But yeah. So basically, Dreamer was trapped in this dream with something that looked, was it a Jawa from Star Wars? I think that's what they compared it
That's
to.
basically
I
it,
watched
yeah.
I watched The Mandalorian, so I understood that reference this time. But yeah, she was basically trapped in a dream with something that looked like that, and in her dream, Iris died, so she had to go to Central City
Why
to
is
find
Iris
Iris.
always dying in the
Right,
show?
right. They promised that wouldn't happen. Literally, the first scene of season 9, Iris dies. So yeah.
I don't even watch the show and I'm fed up.
But I feel like I'm going around in circles criticizing. I just want to say it was a very, very great episode. And seeing Dreamer and Iris, give them a comic series. Give Dreamer her own limited series, because I really want to know what that character is actually capable of. Nicole Maines is just a phenomenal actress, and you really get to see it every time she's playing Dreamer. She's so passionate about the character, and I love the fact that she gets to write the character for DC Comics outside of the Arrowverse, which is great. I think Dreamer will go down as one of the all-time great DC characters in decades from now. And I love that she started on she started on Supergirl as TV's first ever transgender superhero. Incredible. Love that for her. And I'm glad we got one more moment to appreciate that in the Flash's final season. The problem is, appreciating Dreamer was easily the best part of this episode, because easily the best part of the season, just because the season is not hitting what had this final season of the Flash is going to. Iris and Dreamer are an incredible duo. I want more of them. I would take a whole season of that. I hate that I watched this episode through a lens that was like, but what's happening in the final season of the Flash? You know where I'm going with that, Sabrina. I don't want to down the episode, because this is easily one of the strongest episodes the Flash has produced in some time. It's just unfortunate where it was placed.
Yeah.
Let's go to the porch. I want to hear Sabrina's thoughts on what happened on the porch.
Yeah, pivoting to the weaker part of the episode.
Okay, and then I'm gonna circle back to Iris. So,
Yeah,
like, on
please.
the porch is the end of the episode. It's between Mark and Keon. To give some background, Reed, Mark and Keon spent the entire episode on a date Keon wished she'd never even agreed to go on. Like, to her, she thought they were just gonna be hanging out, because she was supposed to be getting a break from learning about her powers. And Mark was like, "Yeah, we could go do that," because he had a steamy dream about him and Keon in the lab. But he only had that dream because he's trying to make her be more like his ex-girlfriend Frost, who had passed away. Okay. And because they have the same face, and it's the same, that basically they're like triplets or whatever. I'm just going to explain it that way, because the science doesn't science in the Flash anymore. But like, so he spent the entire day trying to get her to do things that Frost and he used to do. And then finally she took the microphone when they were supposed to be doing karaoke, and she's like, "So Frost is dead, everybody. This karaoke thing is not happening." And the bar got to see them argue about him trying to make her be like his ex. And then instead of just going to the park like she wanted to go, she wanted to be around nature. And he was like, "Let's do exciting things. What you want to do is boring." And I was like, "Oh my God, please just end it." So like, by the time we get to the porch, it's him apologizing to her outside of Joe West's house on the porch, in which West Allen has some amazing moments. And I'm like, you put them on the West Allen porch? I mean, it's daytime. They didn't give them the nighttime shot with the lens flare. So it's not like I wanted to fight anybody, but I did want to delete the scene. Like, I wanted to go back in time and speak to the editor, because it just was not necessary, because I don't really care. Mark's grief arc ends with him wanting to leave.
How many times are we writing this man out of the show? It's only been 7 episodes.
And he needs to go. I mean, I think, to be honest, I tuned out. Did he decide to actually leave? I was still in a rage.
He's left, and Keon's very sad about it, and that awoke her ice powers, and she turned their dinner into ice.
Oh yes, she ruined breakfast.
She did, yeah, she did. Everything on the table turned to ice, and apparently that's so she doesn't need to like whoosh her powers out. Whatever she feels manifests in front of her. So we still don't know anything about her powers, but she's sad and she can turn things to ice. So
is she living there now? Because that means that like Cecile and Allegra and now Keon are up in the West house, and still not a single West lives in this house. I am like, why are the OCs living in the West house? Like, I'm losing my mind.
I feel like TV always does that, and it's like, can we like just pretend to build a new set?
Yeah,
I would like to, because it just feels disrespectful to me. Personally, I feel attacked, and like they don't care about these main characters. And we should be having like a focus on Iris and Barry, which, by the way, poor Barry got to do not a thing in this episode. I I appreciated that they gave us an update on the Justice League,
That
but
was nice.
Reed, all Barry got to do was panic over Iris, which I mean, like, yes, exactly, do that. But like he walked out of the room, what is it, 20 minutes into the episode, and didn't come back until 40 minutes later.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
really weird, especially since Cecile said she was going to follow him. And now Cecile and Barry have some lovely moments. So I was like, oh, we're going to get to see one of those pep talks. And then the two of them came back in without having shown us the pep talk. I was like, wow, we're really sidelining Barry this week. Didn't expect that at all. Yeah, I did. I was thinking of you, Reed, during the episode because Cecile wasn't in it until halfway through, and then she literally just walked into the room. It was like, I'm getting vibes, and because
Oh my God.
she could feel that the Star Wars Jawa, the Dreamer, whatever that thing was that was making Dreamer have all the nightmares, she could feel its presence. She's like, it's a guardian angel. It's not a threat. It's okay. And it turned out it was a guardian angel because it was the original Dreamer finally showing Dreamer how to use her powers. Like, why couldn't we have done this on Supergirl? But yeah. Anyway, long story short, Iris was having a problem because she was about to publish her Pulitzer-winning article, and she knew this was going to be the article that did it. It was the article all about the Red Death, so at least we have a little bit of tied up back to that storyline. So she knew she was going to publish it, but she kind of had like imposter syndrome where she didn't want to publish the article because she knew she was going to win a Pulitzer for it in advance.
She was
And I'm
blocking
like,
her blessing, and I don't
yeah,
understand why.
exactly. So yeah, it's we kind of went through that in the first episode of the season. We all watched that, yes, and where she didn't want her life to be dictated to by Barry's futuristic book. So they decided doing different things. So she was afraid to do one of the actual things that would dictate her future because then she knew she was going to win it in advance, and she didn't feel like she felt like an imposter. But basically, Dreamer saw that, or made her see that every single decision she ever made in her life got her here. She's not doing this because the book said so. Every decision she made as a reporter got her to this point. So the dream was all about making Iris see that she still has control over her future. And I think that's a wonderful arc. But I'm like, did we not do this in the first episode of the season? I just feel like this episode was full of. It was a great episode that was full of. Okay, but we've done that already. You know what I mean?
We retread, and it bothered me because you can definitely see that the writers' room did watch season 1 again, but we are in season 9, and I'm like, we should be past the future's been written for me. I'm upset about it. I'm going to do everything against doing the thing that would lead me down the path the future says I'm going to be on. Is it because we did this in season 1 when she wasn't ready to confront her feelings for Barry? We did this in season 2 when she was healing from, what is that man's name? He's her fiance. Why is it leaving me?
Eddie.
The dead one?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Eddie. like when she was healing from the loss of Eddie, and then like being like, wow, Barry and I are together in on another Earth. Maybe it does mean that we're supposed to be together. Like we got through this. Why are we back here? I still don't understand why.
They need to maximize Iris's sleigh.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they don't, it's not, from what I'm hearing, it's not giving what it needs to give.
And that's
It's
why it's so frustrating, because we saw that in some of the dreams she went and walked into. We saw that Iris was the police captain in CCPD, and then in another dream she was the head barista at Jitters, which is
so
where she
cute.
worked. So I love that we get
She
to
should
see
be a
Iris
pop star, talk show host.
Yeah, all of the above.
I do wish we spent a little bit more time in Iris's potential careers, because I thought those whole moments were cute and special. But I also just almost, one of the things, and this might end up being my villain origin story besides obvious Iris issues, is that she's the Lois Lane of the Flash universe, and we are constantly fighting her being a reporter. And I just do not. We've been doing it the whole series, and I don't understand why. Just let her be an ace reporter.
Yeah, this show ages badly when it's on screen alongside Superman Lois, because Superman at Lois is exactly the same kind of show as The Flash, and that you've got a corny superhero, corny, fun-loving, lighthearted superhero at the lead, with also his partner in crime who's literally a reporter, and The Flash cannot juggle that in the same way that Superman at Lois does. And I know that The Flash doesn't have Iris in the title because it was very much started off as just being about The Flash, as it should have been, but she came into the picture and she became every bit as pivotal to the storyline as he did. And yet for across 9 seasons she's been the leader of Team Flash. She's been part of Team Flash. She's been struggling with time sickness. She's been building this conglomerate business off screen instead of just reporting on the news. And here we are
Why do they make her a damsel in distress?
every time. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, she really, she always has a gun ready though. Like she
Mhm.
truly does. Like think they need to lean into that a bit more. Like we say all the time, like she stays ready so she doesn't have to get ready. Like that's who she is as a person. So I'm always like, just let her be that. Let us see that on an investigative trail. They never really give her any stories, but I feel like the flash reviews literally just us being like, we want you to do better, you can't do better because you're ending, and so we're bitter about it. So
Are we gonna give them the Riverdale season 6 treatment where we just like let them ride the bench?
I feel like no, because Michael and I need to have the catharsis of being
Yeah.
able
Yeah,
to hop on the pod.
Reed is our therapist, and we need to get it all
I know,
out.
I'm like trying, I'm like, what do you guys need? Do you need a time away from it?
You need to
Oh.
consciously uncouple.
It's too late for that. It's too late. There's 6
I
episodes
know.
left.
But speaking of Riverdale, we should go to the town with Pep, which did have a great season opener. And I guess the final season opener that the series will ever have. Um, but truly, like, well, not a masterclass in balancing, but a great, wonderful class on balancing a storyline where you have the fun and aesthetic of the 50s and the very harrowing reality of Emmett Till's murder, and the kids also dealing with a star that they love who had passed away, James Dean.
It's a really ambitious season, and I know we praised it up and down last week whenever we did our spoiler-free review. But it gets better with each rewatch, and just the story is so good. There are points when it gets a little complicated when we get into the mythology, like toward the end when I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but when Tabitha explains like what's going on and how they can get back to the future, I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
get it complicated. But I'm willing to just let that ride, because like you said, this was our last season opener of Riverdale. It's kind of got nostalgia, so I'm like, I'm not gonna we kicked and screamed through season 6, so I think season 7 we've seen that it has a focus, it has a viewpoint, and I feel confident that no matter what happens, it'll be a fun and impactful set of episodes, because they do have a purpose beyond just like the main story. It seems like they really want to say something with the season.
And it really came out of the gate strong because it had a lot to juggle, specifically the layover from the previous season as how did we end up here. And I think the fact that like Jughead was the one that remembered, it was important to have that and just to kind of like lead us into the story and see how we got here, because Jughead's always been the narrator of the show, even if Archie's the main character. So it made sense that it was him that, of course, it was him that remembered. But I feel like you got to see his perspective of it. And like I said, was it about a previous show? You watched it through their eyes, that you understood what was going on, even if you didn't really understand what was going on. And it balanced it. Like Sabrina said, it balanced all of the storylines really well in the premiere. Until like the last 3 minutes, but like it really did a good job. You really understood what people were feeling, what characters were feeling, and Riverdale can get so fantastical at times, and yeah, this episode certainly had elements of that, but it also balanced some real powerful, hard-hitting storylines, realistic storylines, real storylines with that very well. And I'm glad that certain characters like Tony and Cheryl and Kevin are going to get the spotlight as it continues to do that throughout the season. We don't know how long we're stuck in the past for, but if it's anything like this first episode, I think Riverdale is off to an incredible start.
I feel like this reset is gonna, like, I think this was said in our spoiler-free review. In fact, Reed, I think you said it, reinvigorate Riverdale. It allows us to meet these kids in a different time period with somewhat of the same personality, but because they're in a different time period, the issues that they're navigating are a little different. And I appreciate that we don't have the baggage from previous seasons. It's a fresh slate for all of them. Even Jughead, because, well, this is a spoiler review. Man loses his memories at the end thanks to Tabitha. So we do get to start again. And I think that is something that Riverdale needed to do. It'd be interesting to see later on down the season whether or not the things that happened in the 50s will be remembered, or if they'll be forgotten and we'll just go back to where they are in their present. Maybe with or without powers. I don't know. They're going to have to catch us back up on what they're going to do with the superpowers there. But I enjoyed that, like, they get to be kids again and we're being snarky and funny, and like the drama isn't that high of stakes for the most part. Like Cheryl's big arc of the premiere is trying to take Veronica down because she feels threatened by her. And I do love that we got that little bit of vulnerability from Veronica in the penthouse, wherever hotel she's living in, where she's not like all lights and glamour and whatever. She's here for a reason. It's because she got tossed out by her parents because she was acting out, because they are absentee, basically. And hopefully after that moment, she'll actually get to have some friends and be hanging with the girls, not just the guys, and have some storylines we haven't gotten to see with Veronica. She's always like, my dad is awful, like, or I'm sorry that I killed my father, or like everything is terrible. It's like, let homegirl have a nice time, please.
Yeah, it's nice to see it go back to basics, to before things happen to them, and it's a nice ring the bell moment. Like they get to go back to the beginning, and especially for me with Archie, to see him unencumbered by, being a veteran, fighting a bear, losing his father. Well, he did lose his father in the 50s as well. But like all these things that have happened to them, he's just got a big crush on this girl. He wants to stop riding his bike. He says Shazam. Like it's just adorable. And I think some people might not enjoy going back to high school. And I think part of the conceit of this is that it's not supposed to be serious. Like, yeah, they don't look like high schoolers. That's the point of this storyline. But I think it's so, we keep saying fun, but it's like just so much fun to see like the biggest concern on Archie's mind is impressing Veronica with his car. And like, I don't know, just being able to see him just like grin and just be the Archie that you kind of think of when you think of Archie comics. Like when he sees Veronica, he's just like got hard eyes, like he's like a cartoon, like he's just, it's just so sweet. And all of these, I think every single one of these actors is on top of their game. It's like they all agreed, like, let's do this for them. Let's just like have a blast and do this, because there's something you can pick up on each one of the actors. And I think too, one thing that they don't ever give Riverdale credit for, fans, is how gorgeous it looks. When the storytelling can lack sometimes, but like even the storytelling, like when Riverdale really is at the top of its game, like it has some great storytelling. I would include this season 7 as some of the best storytelling and innovative storytelling on television. Like who's doing this? Nobody. What was I saying before I went on that side tangent?
But the instance of Archie.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. I don't know. That train left the station. I don't know where I'm going with that. But
well, it's lovely though, because when you think about where Archie is in this universe, he doesn't have the trauma of being in a predatory relationship with his teacher. Like, and then the passing of his father is something he can wrap his mind around because he lost him in war. Like there are these things, the things that make up who Archie is as an adult in the present time are often created by trauma. And it's not to say that this Archie, doesn't miss his father or doesn't carry the weight of not having his father with him, but he's still very much a kid. The Archie that we knew and that we were introduced to in season 1 and who he grows into through the rest of the seasons, that he didn't get to be a kid long. He's 15 years old when Miss Grundy prays on him. And that affected his entire being. And they only touch on it sometimes, but it very much shaped who Archie became.
Yeah. And I think, I don't want to say like he missed out an awful lot, but I feel like if you go back to season 1, he did. There was still that earnest quality that we all love about Archie, but he kind of like mentally matured in a way that maybe he shouldn't have had to quickly. He struggled with a lot. He dealt with a lot.
He grew up really fast.
Exactly. And he's always sometimes made a lot of questionable decisions, and that could have played into that. Whereas now it's so refreshing to see him be like, oh shucks, golly gee, I gotta impress this girl with my car. All this kind of side you never got to see of him, even despite Riverdale's 50s like aesthetic in season 1, it was still very modern. Whereas this is just completely different. He gets to be a kid. Veronica may have all these like worldly wise views of the world because she was out there being a movie or a TV star in LA with famous parents, but like he's just a small town boy, and that's what Archie's always been. But I don't think you really got to see that like divide until now as much. It's played out really, really well just in the high school environment. And like it's so nice to see Veronica and Archie. I always predicted, because Archie's the main character and Veronica was the first person he caught attention to in the first season. I always figured they were going to be the one to get well fed early on in season 7, and this is what we're getting so far. And it makes sense because I love the little callback to Veronica's big powerful entrance in season 1 we got in season 7 as well. Only, of course, instead of wearing the hooded robe, she's wearing a nice a TV star like dress.
And they did have their diner date.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a nice little nod to season 1. And like their dynamics completely different. They're not weighed down by all the stupid stuff they ended up getting up to in the later seasons of Riverdale. It's just so refreshing just to see that clean slate. And I know when you start with a couple, that's not how it usually ends up unless you're telling the end game couple from the start through end. But with Riverdale, you can go any which way. And I know we'll probably see Veronica. We know in the trailer, Veronica gets her eyes turned by Jughead, perhaps. That's long overdue. I'm looking forward to seeing that. We know that maybe Betty and Archie will find their way back to each other, and we know that Archie will maybe find himself involved in a storyline with Cheryl as well. So I just feel like I don't care what couple dynamics we have right out of the gate, and I don't care where they're going. I'm enjoying what we've got at the moment, and even as a fan of Veronica and Archie and the way not so much the way it turned out, but the way it was told, I'm glad they've got a clean slate now to start again. I can't wait to see where it goes, and I hope a lot of the fans feel the same way.
Oh, you know what I was gonna say? You just reminded me somehow. Um, it looks gorgeous. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like the
I know,
cinematography, like they never cut corners.
Mm-mm.
Like the story could be doing something wild that we're not a fan of, but like it always looks gorgeous, especially this episode. Whether you like it or not, you have to give it up for like the cinematography, because even that the one shot that like took me aback was when Archie's running out the house and Mary calls him from the kitchen and he's about to go out the front door, but he turns around. The way the camera like followed KJ, I was like, holy crap, that took choreography to get that shot. Like that took like rehearsal. And maybe it didn't, but it looked so complex to me.
Yeah.
Like that was a crazy take. And then even in the scenes where there's the way they light, especially Lily, the way they light Betty in certain scenes to make her eyes pop even more and make them even more expressive. A lot of that has to do with Lily's performance, because she's always delivered in the show. Like every season, Lily is on her game. But the way they lit her, I think it was in the scene with her and Vanessa with the principal when they were like, why can't we publish this article? And the way the camera lingers on Betty and she's like half lit, and it's you can see the emotion in her eyes from the way that they composed that scene. Say what you want about Riverdale, but it is gorgeous.
It should be studied. I feel in film studies classes, I just feel like there's such an attention to the story that they're telling and the shots that they choose and the way that they light things. I think my favorite shot actually, and it is when Jughead is digging up the cooler, and we find out it's Angel Tabitha, but the way that she's standing there and he's framed in the corner, and I was like, we love different perspective on this show. Like we love having a moment or even making something anachronistic, like the kiss between Tabitha and Jughead, where the music is even not aligned with anything that came out in the 50s or previously. It sounds very 80s. We get that neon light back. That's very, very 80s. And the way that they were so close up on them and we slow down. And I was like, they love filmography. Like they just choose filmography, cinematography, they study. Like you can say what you want about Riverdale. It is very clear that the people who craft this show are students of film
and care about it.
And they care about it. Students of film and television and history. And my goodness, the production design and the costuming. Like they really, that's where their budget goes to,
Yeah.
clearly, because it was
I don't want to
gorgeous.
hear any ill words about Veronica's bangs.
No, definitely not.
Mm-mm. They're doing what they need to do.
Yeah, exactly. And like let's be honest, this show's been on the air for 7 seasons, and it's a CW show which people tend to drag. And so its budget has probably been slashed, and you would not know that to look at it. This show looks expensive. And like one of the things I hated the most about season 6 was how uninteresting it looked. That everyone was dull, grimly lit, and Betty was in that boring old FBI office
They
for
were
the whole
always in that
thing.
the gym.
Yeah, exactly. Bloody Pops got moved into the gym, and like its little neon designs didn't even brighten it up. Everything was boring to look at. Whereas this is completely fresh, it's exhilarating. Somehow they're doing this on a 20-episode budget. And like, so it's like season 1 all over again, but more expensive. They're spending money on the season, and it shows how much they care about it. Everything about it came together for me. This is one of those things I mentioned with Superman Lois. Everything felt like it came together on the night. I know maybe some of the time travel mumbo jumbo kind of went when the cracks started to show, but I like that we've reached a point where now Tabitha's kind of dealt with that. I think that'll go out of the way now. We just get to spend some time in the 50s and deal with the ideals and the storylines and the norms of the society then. And I think they're definitely important stakes to the characters, but the show has finally decided to strip back, oh my God, the world's going to end, so you've got superpowers kind of stakes, so that the stakes are more important to the characters and the storylines than like these end of world stakes. Because I think the reason the later seasons of Riverdale struggled is we didn't really get to see how the characters felt about them. The story was dictated to them by the end of world scenarios. In this situation, we're going to get to see how every single character feels about storylines. It's a more contained story, and I think that's what we need, because we finally get to learn more about the characters, who, let's be honest, we probably haven't learned anything new about since seasons 4 or something like that. And I think that's going to be one of my favorite parts of the season.
And what I do love about the setup of this story so far, to get into some spoilers, is that now, I mean, Jughead, he was the one person who knew, and he's trying to like explain to them, like, oh, we're not from here. Like, you're violent, you're a witch. Like, and then he digs up something that connects them to their actual timeline with that time capsule cooler. But by the end of the episode, slate's clean. He doesn't know. We only have Hope and Tabitha, who's going to be hopping across the multiverse. So I don't think we're going to see our timeline Tabitha. But I'm wondering if, because at the end of the episode, Jughead gets his beanie back from present timeline. So I'm like, are there going to be other Easter eggs where like they find things, or like they happen upon like cracks in the time space continuum where they kind of, these characters kind of start to strip away or question, like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I wonder if there's going to be like cracks in their perception of where they are, because even though Jughead like was trying to tell them, they didn't take it seriously. Like, they were like, that's cute, you're, oh, Jughead.
But it's
But
planted
are
a
there going to be,
seed.
yeah, are there going to be any other like Easter eggs that they find? And I don't know if I said this at the top of this thought, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but I love that. Did I say that? I feel like I said this already. I'm sorry, brain fog today. But I love that we're like in on it. Like, we know stuff that they don't know, and we're like, ooh, we have to. And even beyond that, like, we know their history too. So like, we get to see how like Cheryl right now is very a queerness is in her even in the 50s, and she's trying to not see that side of herself. So seeing these characters get to who we know them as, I think is going to be another really exciting and a good payoff in this final run.
Yeah, because I think even with them not really believing Jughead, it's there though. Like he already told
He
them some
planted the
things.
doubt.
Yeah, well, especially the ones that are more positive, right? Like Betty already has sort of a investigative spirit, and she defied authority in this episode in order to help Tony do what needed to be done, which was have the kids in Riverdale High talk about Emmett Till's murder. They couldn't do it in the Blue and Gold, so they circumvented the principal because it was a necessary talk and they needed to have a discussion about the state of America and what was happening in Mississippi. Like, so, but she knows now that in another world, she's an FBI agent. So why wouldn't that spark her desire to continue to investigate? Why would, when Tony learns like she's basically a boss, like why wouldn't she want to be like, you know what? Yeah, let me run the Southside Serpents. Am I not running them already? Let me do that now. Like
that was so cute when she looked at the jacket and she's like, I like the jacket, but I've never seen it before in my life.
Like, so it's a jumping off point for inspiration and potentially the thing that is going to, for those who got negative comments, to pull back from who they were. So like, Archie, work on your aggressive anger. Like, find the tools, figure out what's going on there. I do hope there's Easter eggs. I do hope every time they get closer to a piece of who they are in the present, something just plops down to the side just randomly, and we know what it is, but they don't know what it is, but it becomes a part of how they interact with the 50s world.
I think we're definitely in for a character journey for everyone. And I think that's a good thing because like Kevin was one of my favorite characters in season 1 and he's done nothing of remote interest other than being a plot device for whatever villains on screen every single season since. He's never been given the justice he deserved. I think, for example, this is his time because of the time periods and the belief and the fact that he doesn't know who he is yet and he hasn't figured all of that out, and you're not allowed to figure all yourself out in that era. I think we're in for some really rich storylines, and that's, like I said, Riverdale does character stories very, very well, but it hasn't really been interested in telling them in the last 3 or 4 years. So I hope we'll get that. I think we're going to get it with Cheryl. I think we're going to get it with Kevin. I think we're going to get it with Tony. And of course, Betty and Archie. And now maybe Jughead as he tries to figure out what bend towards justice means. And if we'll see a 50s Jughead, because we never really met 50s Jughead because he knows everything. We'll see a 50s Jughead is very much like current Jughead. And then, of course, Veronica and the stuff with her parents going on. So much rich story potential. I'm so excited for the season.
Before we hop in the car and zoom over to Horseshoe Bay, I have to bring up something else that I was thinking about in the episode because I'm constantly thinking about like, how are they going to end this show? And I know I talked to you guys about one of my theories for how it was going to end, but I feel like it was debunked last season. Remember I said that I thought Jughead's narration is that he's like writing his novel about their adventures, like, and he thinks he's writing the great American novel. I feel like that was debunked in season 6, but then it came back into my head again because he's still like narrating. He's still somewhere in the world. He's putting this thought on paper, I'm assuming, or something. I'm like, what if the narration in these stories are his book, but like after the events of season 1, someone like Ethel stole his typewriter and she's just been making up these stories, and at the series finale they're just gonna be like at a booth in Pops and it's like 2018 and we find out that Ethel was writing these stories the whole time.
That'd be funny.
I kind of like, I don't know how I would feel about it. I feel like everyone would hate that ending, but it just popped in my head. Yeah, I was like, that would be so funny if we find out that it's actually not Jughead writing, like someone just stole his typewriter and writing this stuff.
You saying that though also lays the groundwork for people just to accept that the ending of Riverdale probably isn't going to be what they want.
Yeah, there's no way to predict what's going to happen at the end at all.
It's gonna be funny though. I just feel like it's gonna watching Roberto's storytelling style, it's gonna have an ending that is sure to set be genius for in-universe, entirely upset a lot of the Riverdale fandom. And I think that's okay. I think as long as it works for the universe, regardless of how it makes you feel, at the end of the day, that's what you want, right? For the show to end the way it works in the universe, not how you prefer your ship to end. I'm just gonna put
I'm
it
on
right
Roberto's
there.
side. I've never doubted Roberto. I only thought good things about Roberto. No, but I really am I don't know. I have faith in him now.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know if you guys have seen this Wendy Williams clip where she's like, "Hello, Rita Ora, we're talking about you." Whenever we bring up Roberto, I feel like, "Hello, Roberto, we're talking about you."
Oh man, we have faith in that man.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, we're popping back in on another day because on record day, we had some technical difficulties to the tune of our video got eaten. and so did our audio. So we wanted to give some updates on how this is going to go in terms of a pod episode drop.
Yeah, Amanda Bobbsey came for us. She did not like us criticizing her, and she shoehorned our recording plans. But I mean, like, we got this. We just wanted to give everyone an update on. I mean, I say that tentatively. I don't know if we've got this. No, I'm joking. We just wanted to give everyone an update on what was happening and a bit more clarity on the situation because we didn't know until today.
So this means that, of course, you have noticed that Monday's episode did not appear, but it is going to drop. You will get, I know in a tweet that I had said it was just audio, but Michael's a magician and we do have video as well. So you will be able to see us as well as hear us like you're used to. There's going to be a severe cut where this video is right now, where we just kind of drop off. That is where the Nancy Drew reviews lived, and they no longer are there. When it comes to what we're doing with the Nancy Drew, we aren't necessarily skipping 5 and 6. What you're going to get is a little bit of a highlight of our thoughts because we went in depth and we went in hard about Amanda. And like Michael
we
said,
sure did. We sure did.
The soapbox was out. So, but that just you'll get some of that in the coming pod episode. That'll where we're talking about what is that 7 and 8.
Yes.
But you're not getting everything, just so our Nancy listeners are aware.
Sorry, it was out of our hands, out of our control. We tried.
Desperately, we tried.
Yeah.
Like Michael said, Amanda just did not want us to push that agenda. But we'll try again.
Yes. But just in case anybody was worried that, we were dropping off Nancy completely, we're not. You guys know we're here. We're here for Nancy's journey. We're here for Nace Watch. Like, we're going to be like riding on this Nancy train until she pulls up to the station and tells us to get out, which is happening soon, we know, but we're excited to be getting closer to being on time to watch season 4 with you guys.
Yeah, we're here till August, guys.
Yeah,
he's not going anywhere.
Yes.
We're in the trenches with this show. We wouldn't drop off when we're so close to the end of season 3.
So true. Oh my goodness. Oh, you know what? I didn't plan to say this, but I might as well just say it in this section. We are taking a break though. You're gonna miss up there. What's that? April 17th, there will be no new pod episode. So just check out our content on YouTube. If you're behind on our Nancy journey, there's a whole playlist. Actually 3 of them, because we did it by season. So if you are in the middle of your Nancy journey, but you don't want to be spoiled, say you're in season 2, we have a season 2 playlist if you want to hear our thoughts on what happened in the season. Or if you're making your way through season 3, we have that playlist as well.
It's just a 1-week hiatus we're taking. We just decided to be like the CW and take 1 week off for no reason. But it's not technologically related. We have control over this and we will be back.
I mean, knock on wood.
Oh yes, knock.
No more tech issues.
No more tech issues.
Only positive vibes.
Yes, manifesting all positivity when it comes to technology. But that's all we wanted to tell you guys. So we're gonna bounce out. We'll see you in the next pod episode. Where the CW Spiral. I'm Sabrina.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Reed.
Bye y'all.